Hi everyone, today I thought I'd just get on, give you a bit of an explanation about my daughter, my 20-year-old intellectually disabled daughter. So she might make a bit of a cameo appearance. So she's home today. It's a public holiday today in South Australia, so she's waiting for me to take her for a drive. So anyway, I thought I'd get on and just give you a bit of an overview about how she got her diagnosis, what led up to it. Here she is. On her iPad. Anyway, so it was a bit of a series of unfortunate events when Taylor was born. Started off with her ultrasound. They sent us away. They couldn't get imaging of her face, so they sent us away for a coffee. We came back. They still couldn't get it. So at that stage, they said, oh, we're sure everything's fine, you know, no problems. Anyway, the day that Taylor was actually born, which was, her birth was actually very quick. It was within about an hour of getting induced. So that day, there was no pediatric doctors available after she was born to check her. So they brought in just a normal doctor who checked her over. And that was fine. We ended up in our room and everything was going fine, apart from her not wanting to feed. So she wouldn't feed all day, and subsequently, because I had gestational diabetes, they wanted to do a test on her. They'd already done my testing for the diabetes, and they wanted to do hers to see if she was showing up any markers for diabetes. Anyway, because I couldn't get her to feed on me, they decided that they would syringe some formula down her. They needed her to actually have some food in her before they tested her. So this happened 5 o'clock that evening after having her at 10 in the morning. So then probably about an hour later, hour and a half later, my daughter and her boyfriend at the time came in to visit, and we went to get her out, and she was just foaming at the mouth. So I knew something was, terribly wrong. So I raced out and got some help, and she was taken to the NICU ward. So we were then put in what is known as the death room. And basically was just left there. In that time, we contacted my husband, who came down also, and we just basically waited. It was a very anxious wait, sitting in that room, not knowing at the time that it was called the death room, but finding out a bit later that that's what the nurses and doctors called it. So, yes, Taylor. So anyway, eventually someone came out to us probably 2 hours later, stating that everything was fine. They were, she had gotten some of that formula, had gone down into her lungs. So she was foaming at the mouth. Obviously she wasn't breathing properly. Everything was fine in that way, but they did an actual proper look at her and an assessment of her, and they basically told us that she had a cleft palate, which is the roof of her mouth is missing, and also that she has syndactyly, which is webbed toes. So they then went on to explain to us that basically when there's two anomalies like this, they normally do genetic testing, as it normally is a precursor to something is not right with genetics. So they went, they took some blood, did an initial test on her. At 5 weeks we got a diagnosis of a translocation in her genetics of numbers 2, 8 and 10, which just means 2, 8 and 10 are basically all mixed up. Number 2 might be on the bottom of number 10. Number 10's bottom might be the top of number 8. So they were all mixed anyway. But at that stage, at 5 weeks of age, we were told that there could be more to come, but at the time they didn't have testing to show. And the translocation that she has Doesn't really show anything. There's probably, you know, millions of people in the world that actually have a translocation. Sometimes it doesn't really mean anything, doesn't show, doesn't mean that they actually have a disability. Anyway, they did tell us that she probably did have some sort of a genetic abnormality, but it was years down the track that it may be found, and that they still thought that she would probably be disabled in some way. They weren't sure. They couldn't tell us much at the time, whether it would be physical, intellectual, or whatever. Anyway, so probably at about 8 years of age, we got contacted to ask if Taylor would have a blood test for genetics as things had progressed. And so I took her in. This was her very first blood test. She had no idea what was happening, so she was very good for that. And then this actually took about 6 months. Then we were asked to come back in and explained that she actually had a deletion. She actually has a couple of deletions. One's quite big, one is very little. And this was 22.2 deletion on chromosome number 11. Yes, Taylor? We're going for a drive soon. Okay? So that was her actual official diagnosis. And okay, that's fine. So this is what her official diagnosis is. She's never actually been diagnosed with autism or any of those other things, just this deletion, which subsequently at the time they told us that Taylor is the only actual documented person in the world with these deletions. Still nothing to let us know how she would turn out. And basically, yeah, nothing, no help in the way of, you know, if she was diagnosed with autism, we probably could have got some help very early, in the early years, but because she never actually had that diagnosis, and hers was a genetic diagnosis, which was obviously rare, we didn't go on to have much help until the NDIS. Okay, anyway, I'm going to leave it there today, guys, and I hope that explains a little bit about Taylor. She's just been waiting quite patiently. She just wants to go for a drive, and yeah, we've got nothing else to do today, being a public holiday, just Taylor and I at home today, so yeah. She's a bit bored.
Bit bored,
yeah, a bit bored, that's
bit
right.
Bored,
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, catch up with you next time, guys. Bye.